What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Today I want to show you all 8 builds I've prepared for the new DLC in Remnant 2. I have everything here that you would want to try. Status build, Archon build, range damage build, and OP tank build. This is the full set of loadouts I plan on conquering the DLC with and hope you guys get something out of it. Build number 1 is focused on status damage and healing. We have Alchemist for extra potions and Archon for mod damage and regen. Heavy armor lets us tank as the Tranquil Heart and Concoctions provide highly efficient healing. All our guns have elemental damage on them, and the Ravager's Mark is perfect for Shade Step and insane damage while targets are bleeding. The major change from other status builds is the Blood Jewel Ring. It makes our thrown Krell axes deal bleed damage, and since the new Stormbringer mutator increases status damage applied by melee, this does excellent damage over time. Healing is the main priority of this build. You're not going to be unkillable, but you're going to be able to take all kinds of damage and heal back up in no time. The idea is to throw the Krell axe every 10 seconds to keep your status damage as high as possible. Shoot your guns using the mods to get all statuses applied and let the elemental damage do the work. Without the Stone of Malevolence, we do need Archon to keep those mods coming back at a decent speed. You're going to have a really easy time exploring and trying out new bosses, but won't be 100% invincible, letting you still put in some effort if that's what you want to do. This is the final Spartan 2.0 build, and it should hold you until we get our hands on that new class to make our OP status builds with. Next up, we have my ranged DPS build. We've got Challenger for the high fire rate and free revive if we happen to mess up. Hunter grants the best boost to range damage and a good way to mark targets. We've got lighter armor with a medium dodge to look like a space cowboy. The Tranquil Heart's a good idea so you can avoid empathy and heal without ever taking a relic. Nightfall provides high weak spot damage and excellent lifesteal when you're in its mod form. We've got the Tech 22 to apply bleeding to enemies and get some ridiculously high crit. The Abrasive Whetstone makes sure Nightfall hits for high damage after you shoot the Tech 22, and all rings provide really high crit and weak spot damage, with the Feyrin Sigil to have Nightfall's mod active 24/7. The traits let us have loads of ammo and dodge attacks as easily as possible. Personally, I love Nightfall. It's a very fun weapon to use that has high damage. The Tech 22 is my favorite sidearm, and with electric rounds, it shoots faster than anything you've ever seen. This is a build that dodges and weaves and then punishes anything in your way. The lifesteal provides you with a little leeway, and with Rampage, Nightfall fires as fast as it used to when it was broken. Also, who doesn't love a free revive when you mess up? I know I do. Here we get to my Root Doctor 2.0 build. This makes use of Medic to take hits and infinitely regen your relic charges. You use Summoner to help take down enemies and further increase healing. We've got the tankiest armor possible with the Resonating Heart for faster healing than you could ever imagine. Merciless applies bleeding so the healing bosses can get is drastically reduced. The Krell Axe increases status damage, which makes your no damage tank build have high damage. Then Nebula has acid damage to weaken enemies further. All your trinkets buff healing to absurd amounts, and you have the Shade Step to dodge when necessary. All traits are based around health and defense. This is as unkillable as you're going to get while still getting some smooth gameplay. Be aware that the Crystal Heart Relic actually provides much more unkillableness, but has much less efficiency in combat, so try it out if you're not tanky enough for a particular boss. Other than that, you could take every single hit in the game and go, must have been the wind. Dungeons are extremely easy to run through, and you could explore on the hardest difficulty without worrying much, and bosses get embarrassingly weak when you take them on. The Root Doctor 2.0 will be unstoppable, and who doesn't like an easy mode every once in a while? Then we get to my Havoc build. This uses Engineer to provide a lot more crit chance and much more skilled damage. The turret will support you while you use Havoc form from Archon. The armor is decent in terms of defense while looking like a boss. I selected the Resonating Heart so that we can use a relic and still heal a bit while in Havoc form or just in general. You can use whatever primary you want, but Merciless applies 2 stacks of bleeding which whittles down bosses while you electrocute them. Then you want the Corrupted Rune Pistol. Its mod increases damage by 10%, which will boost your lightning. Our trinkets are all to increase damage and crit, while you have Hypering Adductor to have 2 Havoc forms, and then the Devouring Loop fully recharges your 2 skills once you hit enough crit. The main 2 traits you want are Siphoner, so you can heal with your massive damage, and Footwork, so Archon form lets you move very quickly. This build is incredibly strong. You'll be able to stay in lightning form 24/7 and absolutely blast enemies with a very easy way to get out of attacks. The Engineer as well will be OP in this build and break down everything. But I enjoy this because Havoc form is the most fun I've ever had in Remnant 2, and it lets you melt groups while holding down a single button. All-powerful lightning god mode, it's one heck of a good time. Who can play Remnant 2 without some good old mod spam? This build uses Archon to have infinite mod regen and Medic to gain some survivability and more damage. Our armor once again looks pretty cool, and we have the salvage heart so we can instantly use a relic when we need to. We've got our main mod Firestorm, which will be usable every 2 seconds and just break through everything with 0 effort. It's the most broken mod in this game and will easily take down bosses, elites, and basic peons. You can throw on whatever mod for your secondary, as it'll be usable infinitely as well. But I have Witchfire, so it's very spammable here. The new Spirit Healer mod with this setup provides near infinite healing because you're using mods so often, and also works on allies, which is a bit crazy. Your trinkets buff fire damage and provide the mod regen you need from Stone of Malevolence. And of course, we have the Shade Step, which you will be healing through its health damage from the mod use. Make sure to equip Kinship so the tornado doesn't kill you, and you're golden. This build literally lets you use large fire tornadoes over and over throughout the entire game. On bosses, it can actually completely break their mechanics and freeze them in place. And because the tornado regens mods through elemental damage, you can then use whatever other mod you want over and over as well. It's fun, completely overpowered, and always the best option for bosses that don't have good weak spots. Some men don't want balance. Some men just want to watch the world burn. Finally, we have the Hugs build, that being Hunter Gunslinger for the best range damage. I use Hunter for the large boost from Shroud, and Gunslinger offers the faster fire rate with this build. The armor is perfect looking for an elegant assassin, and your salvage chart makes it easy to heal when need be. Deceit is the most reliable DPS weapon in the game, offering easy access to weak spot damage and infinite mod energy for the gun. We've got Hero's Sword with the Edgelord Mutator to use Deceit's mod in an instant, and the Bolt Driver perfectly synergizes with Deceit as it gains the same buffs we're providing it as well. All of our trinkets increase the fire rate of both guns and greatly increase your weak spot crit. Your traits are pretty basic with Glutton, so relic use literally happens in a single second. This is my favorite high damage range build. It flows very well, lets you shoot quickly, and deals thousands of damage in a second. You really can't beat bosses faster than this, and well, the melee into guns is awesome to get used to. Always good to have a build that shoots down bosses as quickly as possible, for when they have tough affixes or you're just having some trouble. Throw on the boss deletion build, and you make bosses look ridiculous. Of course, we do want a melee only build, as melee is really darn fun in a game based around guns. The build uses Challenger for higher defense and best melee damage. Alchemist increases melee speed so you can instantly take tougher enemies down. Your armor doesn't really matter here. I made this for the looks, but light armor is a bit easier to use, so keep that in mind. Again, the salvage chart is going to be great so you can instantly heal when need be, and your fragments are all melee crit based. I throw on the Song of a Fear mod so you can slow enemies when they swarm you, and then the Boar on your sidearm lets you deal thousands of damage in one hit if you can pull it off. The good news is you can use whatever melee you want. World Edge is the best when exploring open areas and fighting flying bosses. A good old Stonebreaker will usually deal more damage when you have a ground boss. The Mutator and all your trinkets up crit chance and damage so you can hit like 1 to 2,000 damage in every swing. We're also going to need the Bisected Ring for infinite stamina, because without this, charged heavies are much less efficient. And Berserker's Crest makes melee speed even faster. The main trait you want is Arcane Strike so you can greatly gain back mods simply from using melee attacks. I love using this build for, say, Shahala, as he's a pain to fight with every single build, except for this one, and you deal half his health in seconds with the melee build. A good old time just turning Remnant 2 into a Souls game. Finally, we get to my personal build. This one I plan to run on a regular basis. It's got Handler to gain more gun and skill damage, also a free revive every 2 minutes, which is super helpful. Challenger provides a lot of damage when you're up close, and a really fun skill to take down waves of enemies with. The armor looks frickin' awesome, as Engineer's my favorite theme. The Shielded Relic provides a lot of defense you can use to tank even boss damage if need be. The Bulldog and Enigma are extremely reliable damage dealers up close that can take on waves of enemies easily. Then you want to go with a shield-based set of trinkets. Difference Engine grants lifesteal and damage when shield is active. The Rerouting Cable provides shield when you use stamina, and the Jitterating Band provides healing when you have shield. This lets you dodge or use melee attacks to gain a lot of shield, and then you have more defense, damage, and healing all at the same time. This is my new favorite build for exploring dungeons. Enigma chains all the enemies together, taking them on easily. World Edge grants you some shield quickly and lets you use melee and guns smoothly together for excellent synergy. I do recommend some of these other builds for boss fights, as the damage on this build isn't enough to make those easy. But here we have incredible survivability and great efficiency in co-op. This is a very fun build you can have a great time playing through the game with. And there you go, guys, a full loadout of builds that covers pretty much everything you could want. No Invader, unfortunately, but we do have a wide variety of options here that uses almost every class. Hopefully this gives you some options when heading into the new DLC, or if anything, you know what I'll be running myself. Good luck exploring more of Blossom and finding that new class, all while having some S-tier builds to fall back on. Thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll catch you next time.